Well, hey, everybody. I am here with Jo Adell. This is not the first time we've spoken with Joe, but it's the second time. And I'm really excited because, well, there's just so much great stuff to talk about. So I'll start off by first saying, welcome, Joe. Welcome back. It's good to see you again.
What's going on? What's going on? I'm glad to be here. How are you?
I'm doing great. So as we speak to you right now, it's sort of late February and spring training has started. You're playing some games. So I'm curious what's life like for you right now as we're sort of in the early but not super early phase of spring training.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Spring training has an interesting flow. Obviously, you getting in there and it's the first time you're really competing against other teams, other players. But you got to understand that it's still early. It's your first time, and as competitive as we all are, and as much as we want to go out there and go balls to the wall, you still have to kind of take things within progression. So right now, I'm playing every other day, 4 or 5 innings. Kind of that normal schedule is consistent with spring training in the first week or so of games. So yeah, just building that up, getting my 2, 3 at bats in, seeing pitches. I think one of the bigger things in spring training collectively is just optically getting yourself ready as a hitter. You haven't seen this type of speed since September of last year, so you're trying to just kind of slowly get back into the flow of what the season is and kind of that velocity and what the pitch shapes look like.
So this time last year we interviewed you for the first time. You were coming off a really impressive campaign. And then last year you really I mean, I don't know how to say it other than you broke through, right? Like you last year you set your career records in a lot of different places. You had your most games played, 152, which is basically the entire season. Most plate appearances, 573. Most hits, 124. Most doubles with 18. Most homers with 37 home runs. Most RBIs with 98. Slugging percentage, 485. OPS, 778. I could go on and on. But my question to you is the reason you had your breakthrough season because we spoke last year? Because I kind of feel that's what set the whole thing up.
That and you know what? That's good for business. That's good for business right there. I love it. No, I just baseball is weird. I think for me, it really is like as much as I feel like some games when I'm feeling my worst during batting practice or things aren't where they need to be, sometimes they're my best games. And then the games where I feel like I woke up that morning and I felt great, had a great breakfast, practice went well, and I don't play well in the game at all. Just it's kind of random how things work. But the one thing I think last year for me that was consistent was my approach and my routine. My approach every day, the routine in the batting cage, um, how I got myself ready for the game, what I did on the days it was time to lift, week in, week out, good, bad, or indifferent. I had the same routine. I didn't panic because the season is just too long. And as a player in the big leagues, you got to know who you are. I didn't try to be somebody I wasn't. I just went out and played the game, was consistent in what I had to do as a player. And what I don't do well, I know my teammates are going to back me up on the other side. And I think that's why I ended up having the year that I had was I was just being Joe. So
And you're entering some pretty rarefied territory as a major league ball player because not only are you coming off some tremendous offensive numbers, and again, 37 homers and 98 RBIs in today's game is extraordinary, right? Like, pitching it feels to the average fan like the pitchers are sort of dominating the game. Obviously, there's incredible offensive performers, but it feels like at a macro level, pitching is really a little bit more dominant than hitting. But you're also a Gold Glove award winning right fielder, so you're really combining offensive prowess and defensive prowess. Do you focus, like, how do you sort of determine what you're going to invest your time in improving? Is it just a holistic, I'm just going to get better at everything? Or do you focus at certain times on defense, at certain times on offense? I'm curious, as somebody who is really good at both, how you how you determine how you're going to try to improve at both because they're such different disciplines.
Yeah. Torrey Hunter had a good quote. He told me this one a couple of years ago for the first time, but um, a defensive slump, there's no such thing.
Mm.
And the reason that there's not is defense is a lot, a lot mental, right? Like I can get in the box and those pitches just might be better than physically what I'm able to do in that moment. But defensively, you can put yourself in the position and the mindset to go and make plays. And I've always believed in that. And I feel like as a right fielder, somebody who's on the corner, um, the plays are right in front of me. I can see everything. I know where the ball's going after it's hit. I know where the runners are when they're on the bases. Um, when you're not focused on those things and you're worried about your at bat or other things, that's when your defense gets in the way. And I think your defense will always be on par when you're focused on the game in front of you, where the runners are, what you're going to do when you get the ball, and the fact that once the at bat's over, the at bat's over. It's time to go make a play. And the more you can stay there, and it's tough sometimes to not take it out to the field because you're thinking about an at bat, or maybe your at bat's coming up and you're thinking about whoever's in the bullpen. But to stay present in the moment is the challenge, but it's what's doable and it's like what's required. And I think that is what you get when you start talking about some of the better defenders in the game, which is what, I would consider myself in right field as one of those guys that can really go and get it and make an impact. So that's really a mindset. I think it's as much of a mindset as anything else you'll do on a baseball field is defense.
Now, last year was a year where you split your time between center field and right field. And as I mentioned in 24, you won a gold glove in right field. Mike Trout, future Hall of Famer, legend, comes into spring training and he basically says, "Hey, I'd love to get back into center field for a lot of different reasons." So I'm interested in sort of, you know, obviously he's Mike Trout and he's a leader, but
Right.
you're a leader, right?
Right.
You're slugging almost 40 homers and 100 RBIs. So like, do you have a preference where you play? Or are you sort of like, hey man, you put me anywhere and I'm good? I'm curious how you approached it, knowing that things are going to be a little different this year. Every year's different, but this year clearly is going to be a little bit different than last year.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, for me, I was in a running for a gold glove in 24 as a right fielder. And so to come in last year and play center was a little different. I
Mm-hmm.
expected to kind of just go back and do, what I did, what was my strong suit. But obviously, given the fact of what our lineup was and kind of where we were, I had to kind of go in and fill that void. And I did my best. I did what I thought that I could, and I will go out there if need be tomorrow, and do that. I think we talk about Mike though. I mean, he's played there for so long, and so I'm excited that he gets the chance to kind of go back and do what's comfortable for him. I think he's a better offensive player too when he's able to be in the field, at least for half of the week or whatever the breakdown is going to be between DH and him being in center field. I think when he gets a little bit of defense in him, I think he becomes the Mike Trout that we know. And so I think that's what's kind of going to be important to our lineup. And obviously, for me, if I had to pick, I feel like I've been more comfortable in right field. My reads have been better in right. I've kind of been a little better at gauging my space and my reads in right field. I was much better in the back half in center field than I was the first half of the season last year. I struggled kind of early, kind of figuring out new territory and how to play it and where I was, but I got the hang of it in the back half. But definitely by experience, right field's been a strength of mine. But really, really excited that Mike gets the chance to run back out there and do his thing in center, and we all supported it. And obviously, when he came into camp and said, "Look, like I want to give it a go," I know I've had issues trying to stay on the field, but I think when I'm out in center field, I'm at my best. Then we're behind it.
I was actually at the Angels spring training facility this past week, and I noticed a couple of things. Number one, I noticed just by looking at it that the crowd for that opening spring training game between the Angels and the Dodgers was like, wow, there that was huge, and this was at the Angels place, right, not the Dodgers place. And also, just I'm there's a sense around the Angels that I'm picking up that you guys might be a sneaky good team this year, especially offensively. Now that you've had a little time to sort of be around the group of guys this year and get a sense for it, what's your sense about how the team is shaping up for this coming season?
Well, I think this is a collection of guys that are really comfortable with each other and, really are talking that level of hitting with one another. There's no selfishness going on. We know what everybody's capabilities are. Nobody's trying to be something they're not. At the end of the day, our the thing that's going to change us and make us that team that we want to be is going to be how we do with runners in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's everybody. That's every team's goal is when runners are in scoring position, who's up and what's their approach and how can we move this guy? How can we manufacture these runs? Because we're going to hit our share of long balls. I mean, we have the lineup where we're going to run into mistakes. We're going to hit our home runs. We're going to have our celebrations. We're going to, be doing the two-step at home plate and all that type of stuff. We're going to have those moments, right? But it's what do we do when we're in a pinch? We're facing a Skeens or a Scooble, or a DeGrom or those type of guys where it's
Sure.
like, hey, we haven't had a runner on in 3 or 4 innings. How do we get that runner to second base with less than 2 outs and find a way to fight one off into the outfield to score a run? That's going to determine, what we are as an offense. And that's the stuff when it comes to the playoffs. That's what you want to see. You want to see the teams that, can do that because the long ball will be there. But at the end of the day, manufacturing those runs and runners in scoring position and finding a way to make something shake when you're facing these front of the line rotation arms, that's the make or break difference.
I think one of the things you realize when you watch professional sports for a long time is that everything is constantly changing, constantly. And the Angels, like many clubs, have a new manager this year. You're a leader on the team now, right? Like, not only are you a statistical leader, but you're also just by nature of who you are and the position that you play and the importance that you bring. You're a leader for the club. You know, Normal people like me, we have new bosses, every so often, and things change. But I'm interested what it's like for you as a newly minted leader on the team and with a new manager. Like, this, I would imagine this is somewhat of a new experience for you. You've probably got some people coming to you asking you some things. You got to develop a relationship with the new manager. I'm just curious what it's like to be in the situation that you're in right now with a new manager as somebody who a lot of people look up to on the team.
Well, I think what's kind of cool is, obviously, yes, that's true. I feel like, between me and Mike, we're the longest tenured Angels that have been here. So it's kind of interesting. It's like a game of survival or something. But yeah, I think it's cool that, I played with Kurt. He was a teammate of mine. So coming into this, I knew he was going to be great for this job. And, a lot of times what you find out in spring training is a lot of these guys, it's the first time that they're around, whether it's major league veterans or whether it's, the manager in general. The manager always brings some sort of kind of that anxiety, that a lot of the younger guys feel where it's like every time they're going out to play catch or, running the bases or hitting BP that they're trying to figure out if the manager's watching or, don't feel like they can approach the manager. Not the case with Kurt. You can go into Kurt's office. Everybody has felt open with Kurt about going up and being able to talk to him and have a conversation with him about baseball or family stuff. He's been so approachable in camp so far and that's just who he is. He's always just been that guy to be approachable and easy to talk to and giving you um, that respect that everybody deserves to the point where instead of asking me, a lot of guys are going and talking with Kurt and feeling that open about it instead of, whispering to me about, hey, do you think this is okay? We haven't had that. And so that's a really cool thing, is to have a manager that is at that level with the players, where there's that mutual respect and that comfort. So of course I get my fair share of questions, and they look up to me as somebody to kind of lead our charge and be a part of that. But it really is cool to have a manager that is on the level with the players, that they're not confused. Um, they know that their voice is being heard, and that um, they're going to get the answers about what it's going to take for them to be on the team, what they need to do to get better, and honest feedback. And that's what it's about.
So I'm curious how you define your own goals for a season, and I'm not asking you to explicitly state what they are, although if you want to, that would be amazing. But like, do you sort of look at what you accomplished statistically last year and just sort of say, okay, well, I want to exceed that, or are do the goals that you set for yourselves sort of is it not so much about statistics, is it about availability? Like, is it quantitative, is it qualitative? I'm curious how you define your goals for an upcoming season, and then how you sort of internally measure yourself against those goals as the season goes along.
I think one thing that's when you talk about goals, that's important to know is every time that every time you go out and do something, and you're competing on the field, or you're having whatever level of success, there was a process before that that was required, in my opinion. And so I never really have numerical goals about the season, about I want to get to this certain number. It's more of the day to day goal of my process and how I'm competing, and um, what I'm doing to prepare for whatever that moment is. And I think if I show up every day and prepare in the way that I know I'm capable of, then the results will be what they are. Um, it's kind of funny. It's like when you're playing a sport and you're playing professional sports, it's a gamble, because you're not owed any level of performance. I'm not owed a 40 homer season with 100 RBIs. The gamble is the work that I put in to be able to have a chance to be able to put those numbers up. And so that's kind of the approach that I'm taking, is every day that I go to the field, I'm working, I'm preparing in a way to give myself the best chance to go in and to have those types of performances. Doesn't mean that's what I'm going to get, but I'm willing to take the gamble of what it takes and the sacrifice to prepare. And then whatever else happens, happens. And so that's kind of my goal moving through 2026, is every day I go in that, I'm consistent on my routine, good, bad, or indifferent. And especially when it's not good, because when things aren't good and the hits aren't dropping, it's real easy to try to switch your routine, to want to change something, to be something that you're not, when you just have to stay the course and say, hey, I know at the end of this 650 at bats, 700 at bats, it's going to even itself out, but just to stay on that path. So,
And yet, somebody who has such a specialized skill to be able to hit a baseball, no matter what, right? We've seen the greatest players. It doesn't matter who you are, right? You have your ups and your downs. You have your hot streaks. You have your cold streaks. You've made adjustments to how you approach the plate over the course of the years. I'm curious, when do you start to think, okay, this is less of, when you're having a hot streak, right? Or a cold streak, like when is it that, does it sort of, is there a mechanical thing that sort of, you're like, okay, this is where my feet belong, this is where my shoulder belongs, this is where it is. Like those things adjust over time, and like when you've had some cold streaks in the past, you made adjustments, to the mechanics of your stance, and had results change. Are you still sort of always sort of tinkering with that, or do you feel like you've got everything where it needs to be? Now you just need to sort of make sure that you're consistent. I'm curious how you evaluate just your swing, and how you do it over the course, again, of a long season, right? It's a 160
right.
game season, which feels like forever to a lot of people, right?
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that, that I found that was kind of interesting was, from a stance perspective, how I got into the box, how I stand in the box. has something that's kind of been consistent. I've always kind of stood around the same way in the batter's box. The thing that was changing was what I was doing with my leg.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from, I had a regular leg kick when I was a little younger to what ended up being a toe tap. So I ended up going from a leg kick to a toe tap. And then I went from a toe tap to an early stride. And then what I do now is just a lift. Like I just lift my leg. I don't really, it's not really a leg kick. It's not a tap. It's just a lift. But the setup was relatively close to the same throughout all of those stances. The thing with that was me trying to find timing,
Mm.
right? So I was trying to search for a way to be on time and wanted to find out what worked and what didn't and what could I do. But out of all of that, it was all really BS because at the end of the day, you're trying to find the ball, right? And so I spent too much time trying to worry about what that was
Mm.
instead of focusing on, well, I have to pick the ball up. Because if I'm always worried about what my lower half's doing and what my leg's doing and where, if I'm going to kick or if I'm going to tap, if I'm going to step, I'm never going to be able to create timing. I'm
Mm.
always going to be searching for something there and not focused on the big picture, which is the baseball. So now when I go in, I get into my stance, I'm set. I don't think about what my leg's doing. I don't do any of that. I'm in there. I have a leg lift, but my focus goes right to where I want this pitch to start. So I don't even look at what my lower half's doing, all of that stuff. It's going to sync up. It's all going to be fine. But if I'm focused in the wrong area of where I want this baseball, I know that I'm going to be off timing. And so that's where I hone my focus in now. That's been the difference was literally I just get in the box, I'm set. I'm set in there, I'm strong, my hands are back, and I'm looking for this particular pitch. I'm looking for the ball to start here. If it starts here, then I'm going to be ready to fire. And once I got there, the rest became simple. My at bats were better. I worked the count. I was able to move runners. My power started to really show up in a way that I knew it always should be and always was. And all through the minor leagues it was. But big league timing is a little quicker.
Mm.
You know, it requires a little bit faster timing. Pitches are a little firmer. Breaking balls are a little bit better. And when you get focused on the baseball and it becomes about where you want the ball to start, that's when you know that you're where you need to be. And I've talked to some of the best hitters in the game, and that's where everybody's mindset is. They're not worried about this. All the body stuff, all the form, are my hands going to be here? Yeah, I look at video and I see where my setup is, but I'm only looking at small details about where I'm setting up, right? It's not my swing. It's always going to be my eyes and what I'm looking at and what I'm looking for.
Hmm. I mentioned it earlier, but I want to come back to it. So, opening spring training game, Dodgers Angels sold out at Tempe Diablo Stadium. I don't know that that's been like that for spring training openers in the past. I would imagine you feel a different kind of buzz around this team and around the club than you have probably in years past.
I'm telling you, I mean, it was jumping. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I think obviously when you're talking about the Dodgers, they bring a crowd.
Mm.
I mean, there is no doubt about it. You know, when they come, it's deep. You know, and but that's what you want.
Sure. Yeah.
You're talking about the first game of the year. In spring, and obviously, I played 3 or 4 innings or whatever the case was, but you know, you kind of feeling that type of excitement early on. I mean, that's the type of stuff that you get to play around that. That's cool. That's the type of stuff that gets you ready to go. That gets you hungry for it and makes you it kind of wakes you up and says, hey, this is why I'm here.
And then you've got a really, it's actually a pretty amazing division. Like the teams that you're up against, in your division, right? You've got the defending division champions, coming off a pretty wild postseason run. You've got the up and coming Athletics, who have some really, really strong young talent. You've obviously got the grizzled the veteran, the Astros who have had so much success, right? Like there's a lot of different. It's just a really interesting division too, right? So it I would think on one hand, it's like, man, can we just get a break one of these days and not play just, a team loaded with all stars? On the other hand, like I think to what you said earlier, right? It's got to be pretty exciting, right? To just have all of these great players and these great teams that you're mixing it up with, that has the potential to bring out the best in the entire Angels organization.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is, it's the major leagues. That's why I call it the major leagues. At some point, you're going to play good teams. You expect to play good teams. If you're going to be in the playoffs, that's what you're going to get. And there are no breaks. And I think that's kind of, it's a man's game. And I think we're excited about, the opportunity to go out and face these guys. And when you get to go and you get to, get to beat these teams, you get to face them and beat them. It just lets you know what you're capable of as a group. And I think that's what's so cool, every year that, we get to go into the Freeway Series before the season starts. It's the same type of thing. We get to face the Dodgers and go head to head. And, obviously, it's preseason still at that point, but, we're playing 8, 9 innings, and so we get to go and we get to see, you know, what they've got, how we match up. And that's how we start the year. And I love it. It gives us a chance to go and show that, hey, this is where we are. We face the team that has won it back to back years. We get to see, how we are. When you play good teams, you become a better team. You get to learn about yourself. You get to see what you need to do better, how you can be better. And I think that's what it is. And guess what? People show up for that. Good teams playing good teams, good baseball on the field. You're not going to have issues with people showing up. So all those things are positive. It's what you want, when you're a kid at home, playing wiffle ball in the backyard. You're thinking about playing in the World Series, and you're thinking about playing the best teams that there are. And so that's how our mindset's going to be moving forward.
Love it. All right, so I'll get you out of here on this. It's been a real joy watching you play last year after we met at the start of the year. I'm looking forward again to just watching you have a great year. This year, the All Star game's in my backyard in Philadelphia. I think you're going to be an All Star. If you're in Philly for the All Star game, can I meet up with you and shake your hand and take a picture with you?
You absolutely can.
Love it.
You got it.
Fantastic. Well, I expect you to be there. I think you're going to have another great season. I think the Angels are going to surprise a lot of people in a positive way this year. Just a lot of good buzz about them. I just want to thank you so much, Jo Adell, for being here. We really appreciate it. We wish you the absolute best of luck this season. And we're excited for you. And I just want you to know that everybody here at Out of the Park is really rooting for you every single day. And we just wish you the best.
It's awesome. I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, everybody, for
All right.
watching. Thank you, Jo Adell, for being here. We appreciate it. And what do you say we do this again next year, Joe?
Come on now.
Love
I
it.
got you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.